Hello, BookTube. Thought I'd do a bit of a catch-up video. Been pretty busy lately, but I have managed to get some reading done, and some good reading, and pick up a few books here and there and things along those lines. So, first of all, some of the stuff I've read. I recently, a couple days ago, finished my first Robert Crais novel, The Watchman. It's, I think, the first Joe Pike novel, thriller. I'd seen the author around, not personally, but his books, and finally had a paperback come my way, and I gave it a shot, and I really enjoyed it. It's a standard thriller. Takes place in Los Angeles. The hero's a little over the top. Super strong, super fast, super smart, tough guy. But it's a nice, nice palate cleanser, let's put it that way. I like thrillers. It was a good one. So I may work on reading a few more. I don't have the copy because I have friends who also like thrillers, and when I was done with the paperback, I passed it along. And hopefully we'll be able to put an image of it up here if we can find one. The other thing I read, really, well, actually, let's start with this one. And again, I really enjoyed it. It was a biography of St. Patrick. And this is The Legend and History of Ireland's Patron Saint by Roy Fletcher. This is Princeton University Press. And it's 2019. Let's see. Roy Fletcher is lecturer in early medieval history at University College Dublin. He is co-editor of several books, including The Irish and Early Medieval Europe, and The Introduction of Christianity into Early Medieval Insular World. He lives in Dublin. Excellent index, endnotes, chapter notes also. A really in-depth read. Has some images in it. So let me see if I can just find an example. Very scholarly job. Within that realm, well written. Hard for me to put this properly. If you're looking for like an engaging read like you would with a novel, this won't work for you. Or even a more general history. This tends to get down into minutia, into theory. Historically, scholars have read medieval sources back towards Patrick's life. Patrick was from England, went into Ireland, obviously became the bishop and all that, and supposedly converted the Irish, or all the Irish, drove out the snakes, So there's a lot of medieval stuff read back towards Patrick that isn't in original sources per se, and there's quite a bit of the same thing going on with the Celtic materials. So we find that Caesar discusses the Celts on the mainland, and then that is applied to Celtic people on the islands. Then we also find that later myths that were written down are pushed back in time. So there's a lot of complexity going on here. How do you sift through that stuff? How do you make sure you're doing it properly? So I found it fascinating. I did not read it in a day. It says not sit down and, well, some people probably would be, but for me it wasn't sit down and read in a day. But I'm glad I read it, so it was sort of interesting to see some of the problems that come with that kind of scholarship. So very, very good book. Then the next thing I read, incredibly engaging. The title is A Well-Read Woman, The Life, Loves, and Legacy of Ruth Rappaport by Kate Stewart. And this is one of those little A books. You can see right in the bottom there. Let me line it up properly. And that's an imprint of Amazon. And this is from 2019. I like the back. They get the library card. Ruth Rappaport was a librarian. She started her life on the run from the Nazis, basically. I mean, she was 10, 12 years old. Ends up in Switzerland, eventually ends up in the United States, loses both her parents and several other relatives during the Holocaust. Goes to Israel, is there during the formation of the country, goes back to the States, ends up building the library system, a fascinating thing to me, for the military during the Vietnam War. Then she ends up working for the Library of Congress, and bit of a legend. Hard smoking, loved to drink, really tough, not always easy to get along with. Lived in a time when, of course, well, the problems still exist, but her dealing with superiors, even co-workers who were men, is pretty rough to read about. And not just in the United States, but when she was in Europe and in Israel. It's makes for some tough reading. But she's a tough character, and what she did with her life, and how she built it out of all these disasters, all these challenges. I found, and she was imperfect. She had a lot of flaws. Who doesn't? But I just felt like at the end of this book, this biography, that I wish I'd known her. She would have been a hoot. You probably would have never known what she was going to say and when. And there are times when you can tell she didn't care who she said it to. She was a tough cookie and an admirable person, I think, in many ways. But she had her flaws. So this book, really enjoyed, and I would recommend to people who like a whole range of subjects. Libraries, books, like reading source material for the Holocaust, the formation of Israel, American World War II, all sorts of things. J. Edgar Hoover, all these things show up in here. This book and this life is full of so much stuff and so many interesting people and events. So those just in the last week or so of what I've read. I started this, Len Deighton, Horse Underwater, another thriller. I don't know if you can see it very well there. You can tell I just started dipping into it there. Standard thriller, when was this, from the 60s or 70s? Let me double check. 1963. So let's see. Like I say, it's a standard thriller from a legendary thriller writer, but I'm not really deep enough into it to say much about it. In the mail, I got had a few things show up here. Let me make sure I do them in some sort of order. So I have Weird Mass number 15, and most of you will know that that's Matt Wall's fanzine. Excellent. And this one he has, let's see, I'll Be Waiting by Raymond Chandler, Dead Dame on the Floor by Matt Wall, Buy the Book by Brian James Lewis, Mr. Panda, Private Investigator for God by Ben Fitz, and for serials he has Fagman by Matt Wall, and then he has a crossword on the back here. So that's number 15. And then and I haven't gotten a chance to read them yet, but I will. Number 16, Betty Page on the back. So we have Thrown Out by Peter Clark, The Master, The Android, and the Garlows by Matt Wall. Time of No Return by D. Wardrop. On the serials, we have The Last Great Apostle of Rugged Individualism, Part 1 by Jay Zimmerman. Rumors from the Attic, Chapter 1 by B.L. Kohler. The Red Bishop, Chapter 3 by Steve Donahue. Fagman by Matt Wall, and Crossbeard again. So an idea how the pages look. I really enjoy these. And then he sent along the Time Magazine, January 2019, number 2. Looks like that. And it has Frankenstein, Part 2 by Mary Shelley. The Damn Thing by Ambrose Bierce. Who Goes There, Part 1 by John W. Campbell. The Secret Cave by H.P. Lovecraft. Samaria by Robert E. Howard. The King in Yellow, The Repairer of Reputations, Part 2 by Robert W. Chambers. So these are always great fun. I look forward to Matt's stuff. We'll put a link down there because you might enjoy it too. Coming up here, I'm working on, almost finished with a volume for Steve Donahue and I. We try to every month. I've been a little busy lately and he's been very patient with me. But I'm almost done with a nonfiction work for 2F by C. I think he's doing fiction this time. If I've mixed that up, I'm going to have to scramble to correct it. So I'm hoping to get this all done so we can maybe do our videos this week. And I'll get in touch with him and talk to him about that. Then the other thing here, and that I'm really looking forward to reading, and Steve kindly sent it to me, is Jerusalem, City of the Book by Merav Mack and Benjamin Balint, with photography by Frederick Brenner. Quite a beautiful thing here. And it's about the libraries in the city of Jerusalem. And it's Yale University Press, New Haven and London. It's 2019. And when I saw it, I just went, I want to read this. I want to, and hopefully review it for him, or at least give it an attempt. Just my sort of thing, and I was really excited. Now the center part here, I haven't had a chance to look at it too much, but the center part of these colored images, these plates, which I think are the ones by Frederick Brenner, and I'll need to go through this to be sure. But there's these historic type images, which I don't think could possibly be. These are by other folks. Like this throughout. But I got it yesterday, and I was zipping through the pages real quick, very excited, and I saw this image. And this is Brian Walton, Bishop Brian Walton's really famous polyglot Bible. And I'll start putting some images up here because I have actually worked with 2 different sets of this book. They're massive things in 6 volumes. And they came out in 1657, thereabouts. And when I saw this, I was excited because I've handled these books many, many times, and they are amazing. Where I worked, we had 2 full sets, one pre-restoration and one with the restoration of the King in England. And so they had different full dedications, which probably was a politically astute move. But most of these were actually lost in the Great London Fire, and we hear mentions of that by Samuel Pepys in his diaries. So all that did is whet my appetite. When Steve sent it to me, I didn't know this was in there. And they're books that I hold near and dear to me, and because they are so amazing, and of course I have a personal connection with them. So that's pretty much where I sit. I have an awful lot of stuff downstairs on that little side table where I have things piled up that I want to read. But I do have these projects either finished or starting, or in the case of the 2F by C, pretty close to being ready. So I just want a gray, dreary weekend like it has been for weeks here. But I wanted to check in with everybody and let you know what was going on. So hopefully you all have a sunny week and nice weather, and we will see you, BookTube.